Right, John. Now it's echoey. Can you all hear an echo? Can you hear us?
Never had this problem before.
Oh, she said echo, yes.
Does that work now?
Do you still have an echo when we're talking? Can you guys hear an echo?
We shouldn't have an echo. Good. Okay, good. Okay. I know exactly what I did wrong, at least, which is good for next time. It's all about learning from your mistakes, I suppose.
Technology.
Yes. So
start again.
Welcome back to Sunday Night Teacher Talk. And we got no problems here. Only things to learn from. And so what I was saying before I had technical difficulties was that this last week we did our fourth and final classroom management workshop of the year. So it's been building for the last 4 months, every month, something new, from building relationships to classroom management itself, to policies, procedures, routines, rhythms, that sort of thing, to my top 50.
Wait, you left out the most important one, which was creating captivating lessons. I feel like
that's what it was.
That was a great one.
Yeah. Thanks. So, it has been something to see that we could pull something off every month. And, I was thinking today, I was listening to a sermon this morning, and one of the things that he said was that it works if you work it. And it really made me think about so much of what we talk about here, which is like this idea that you could believe what, not just what I'm saying, like someone in the comments or whatever, you could believe it. You could think it's right. But if you do not work it, it doesn't work. And so what we're here to do is to support one another in that idea of helping one another to gain the courage, the inspiration, the motivation, the belief that we can do the work, right? And so that's what we were trying to do here. So with that, whatever questions that you have, please leave them in the comment section below, or on the side, or wherever the heck you're watching this. But and we're down to talk about anything. We realize it's the end of the school year, but look, nothing's not worth working on because it's just going to show up next year anyway. It's all the teachers that I mentor that it's best to get these things down now, because the same students show up again next year, right? Like sometimes actually the same kid gets left back and shows up next year. DJ Dirty Kev had you a few times, buddy. But it's also like they just show up with a different name and a different face, but they still show up. So with that, we'll take anything you got.
Y'all are pretty quiet today.
I know
there's a bunch of you watching, but it's the end of the year. I really think it's part of it's like the end of the year. I'm feeling it.
I swear, here in New Mexico, it's so sunny all the time that on gray days, you just feel like a layer, like a level down. Like you're just like
it's gray here today, and it feels a little bit like
like you need like your what do we call it? What are we doing when we're making videos? It's doing like color, like you didn't color grade something.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like that sort of a thing. But I'll tell you, so while I'm waiting for a question, gosh, so much incredible stuff. There's so many speaking opportunities coming in. And I just want to remind folks that, like, if your school is already bringing someone in and what I'm talking about on here is something that you like, I'll even send you the template email that you can just fill in the blanks and send it to your admin. Let me jump on a call with them and with you and them if you want. But
so we have an email list if you're not on it. And we sent out an email to all the teachers on that list and said, like, hey, if you let's hang out at school. And we actually got quite a few people that took it to their admin and booked us for days. So that's really exciting. So if you're not on the email list and you would like to be, you can just go right over to our website, realrapwithreynolds.com, and you can, there's it says newsletter, which We don't really have a newsletter that
No,
goes
it's
out right now. There will be.
coming out again this summer.
And so you can sign up and just get your name on the email list, and you could be a part of getting emails like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to be, it's awesome. I mean, we're all over the place this summer, from Tennessee, South Carolina, a few times in Texas, but Texas is enormous. So you could be one place and be hundreds of miles away from somewhere else. Arkansas, New York State. Just, we didn't put that. I don't think that was.
I did. I put it in the calendar.
Did you? So yeah, just all over the place this summer. So like, let us know if you're interested in having me come and speak at your school, and we can hook it up. So,
all right. Are you ready? We have a few questions. Are
you
ready?
Let's do it. I am beyond ready.
All right. William Ford asking, I am going on my 3rd year teaching social studies next year. Just recently, my department head offered me an AP government block. My big worry is the level of feedback required. Are AP classes worth the work?
So that is one thing I've never taught is AP. My reason for that, and I'm big on feelings here, William, is that I go off intuition. I never felt that pull to that world, right? So like, AP classes, in my experience, have been really highly motivated students that are willing to do the work, that see the worth in what they're doing, and have like some intrinsic drive to excel in especially in education. My call always felt to the opposite of that, which were kids that had like zero interest in education, weren't really sure why we were here, and like, what are we even doing all this dumb stuff for anyway, where I could just like go get a job. That's my gang right there. So I've had friends that have taught it that love it, but they love the work, right? Because the work, they know that the work they're putting into it is something that kids are kind of hungry for anyway, that they're going to lay out a project and there's no poking and prodding and motivating kids to do it. They just like, they're far more apt to do it. And their parents are bought in as well. So that's already there. So you're just, that filled my friends up. So I remember my friend Randy did it, and it just filled him up all the time, that he would come up with these ideas and the kids would get excited about it, and he was rolling it out. It was different than in like a regular ed class, where you might come up with a great idea, but no one cares. No one's interested in what you're doing next. No one is like going to be like, this was great, thanks so much for doing that. Or you might have like 2 kids that do that. But it's not the norm. So that, is it worth the work? It depends how much I think that feeds your soul doing that kind of work. And if you do it once, then, it's like anything else in teaching. Then if you do it again next year, it's that much easier, because it takes so much of the prep out of it. You're more like refining it each year, hopefully, and not recreating the wheel and coming up with something new and fresh and whatever. But and if your school, like whoever taught AP before, do they have a bunch of stuff? Does that stuff suit you? Was it really made with students in mind? Because sometimes y'all, gosh, it, like we get a curriculum handed down to us, and it's like, did anyone have kids in mind at all when they made this? Or is this just like we're just shooting from the hip here, and I like this, instead of like, does this make sense for my students? So I would look at those sorts of things. What does your intuition tell you? Just because I say this a lot, actually, and I've learned this in my business. Sometimes more money costs too much, right? So sometimes we are asked to do things in school that we might even say yes, because it comes with a pretty sweet stipend, or there's more money because I'm picking up a 6th class or whatever. And it's too expensive, because now I don't have the time. Now I don't have the energy. Now I'm saying no to other things in my life that I care about, like time with my family and things of that nature, because of that. So what's your intuition tell you? What's the time commitment going to cause you to say no to? Is the monetary bump worth it? And is this something that are they going to give you some stuff to run with? Or is this like, you're starting something from nothing? those are some of the questions I'd ask myself before I jumped into something like that.
He mentioned in an additional comment that he talked with the other AP teacher. Thank you for fixing my hood. They want to split the block, essentially. The other AP teacher, he did not seem stoked about splitting it.
So
that makes a difference because you're working with someone. It just impacts your decision.
If you're working with someone that doesn't really want to work with you, and do you have to do what they do? Like, then that gets really hairy sometimes too, especially if I've had to do that where there's been like a new English teacher. I remember they did this at BL. They brought in a new guy and wanted me to work with him. And man, I didn't like any of his ideas. I just thought, I was like, maybe these work for you. Maybe they work for your class. That is not something that I want to do. And that becomes really, really difficult, I think.
Yeah. It's a factor to a variable to weigh out.
Facts, for sure.
All right. Jennifer Melton is up next asking, I have been doing some of my greatest hits projects. How do you get the students excited?
So that's such a great question, Jennifer. One, I found that just because, I'll say this, I love Van Halen. And Reynolds, where are you going with this? Why are we talking about Van Halen? I just wanted to tell you that. No. I love Van Halen. I think Van Halen with David Lee Roth, greatest hits album, one of the best albums of all time. If I put that on in the car with my kids or with other people in my life, they might not think that those hits are so great. What does this mean? It means that some things come in waves. Some of my projects that I've had that have been like for years, just hitting it, just the best, like everyone loved it. It was something staff talked about. It was something older kids would be excited that the younger students were going to get into. And then at some point they just lost their magic, right? So even like I used to do this thing called, Weird Friday, where every Friday I would introduce the kids into like a concept, a video, an idea that was weird. But then that was largely pre-YouTube, absolutely pre-YouTube shorts, reels, TikTok, things of that nature. And it just became this thing that our students were consuming so much content all the time on their phones that it made Weird Friday like not that interesting anymore. Like I had to change up what I was doing and start doing activities instead of just watching videos. When I would have kids act things out, there were years where that would be killer. And then I either had to step it up a notch or just eradicate it and do something else. So that's something to be mindful of as well. So one of the things that's going to keep your students excited is by coming up with new ideas. Now that also requires more work from us, but you get years out of that, right? Like Van Halen put out 1984, and then that album crushed for years. And for some of us, it's still crushing, 40 years later. And, but so that's one thing. The other thing is, I think doing stuff like, and we talked about this in the creating student engagement workshop that we did. I walk you through this process of like, how do you build anticipation? So I'm not just going to spring it on you one day, but it's, oh man, wait till y'all see till next week, like what we're going to do. All I'm saying is don't be late on Wednesday. That's it. If no one takes anything else away from this class today, do not be late on Wednesday. You will regret it. Because we're going to do something mind-blowing, something fun. So I'm building that engagement. I'm giving out clues as to what we're about to do. I have old students come in and talk about like, yo, y'all, you really don't want to miss next Wednesday. Like it's one of the best things we did last year. I hate school. I came to school for that. You're building that engagement. You are taking kids' new ideas into account. You're taking kids' new interests. So don't use pop culture references from 3, 4, 5 years ago because pop means popular. Those popular culture references are not so popular anymore. So you want to make sure that you're keeping some level of freshness. And even on things that are the best, it's, it's always nice to have like a something in it that's new, something that's a little bit fresh, something that takes it up just a notch, right? So I told you last week I watched the Taylor Swift concert on Disney Plus. I think if Taylor Swift kept showing up and doing that concert for 10 years, everyone gets bored from it. Like we already saw this. We already saw when you did that. That surprise already happened. So what new thing are you going to do? And even for us, it could be something small, but what's something new you can layer in that's just going to make it even that much better?
You know, I think of our last workshop that you did, and in it you talked about, this is so true, especially for teenagers. If you're teaching teenagers, like they never show that it's awesome or
Yeah.
tell you that it's awesome. They'll tell you when it sucks or when you're awful, but
Yeah.
they don't tell you if they loved it. And their face never, like, you can't ever get a read on teenagers.
Some
It
of
feels
them,
like they're just
yeah.
like, and so I think that's a part to take into account as well.
And we're the same way, right? Like how many times I tell
No,
you,
I'm super expressional.
I have been but I remember even at Get Your Teach On last year. So at Get Your Teach On, one of the things we did was we interviewed people that liked. So if someone came up and said thank you and that, oh gosh, I loved what you were doing, we asked them to do a little interview so we could add it to our speaker trailer. Some of those folks in there, if you go back and watch the video, they're just like this. Their whole time. And then they're like, oh my gosh, this was the best session of the whole day. Bro, what? This was not giving me that feeling. I'm like working the room and running around and jumping on chairs and getting people sing songs and stuff like that. And folks are just like this. And then afterwards, the point is afterwards, they're like, the best. And you're like, I could have used a little clue. But students are the same way. You're right. But the kids that hate it, they're like, yo, this sucks. Reynolds, this sucks. And I'm like, and then that's all I hear. That's all the feedback I got. It's like, you guys are killing me.
Yeah. So, something to take into account. All right. Chris Carson up next. He said, with that in mind, if it works, if you work it, I'm in a particular situation without classes. I love what you did. I get fired up. Then there is nothing for me to work. What say you? Help.
So, Chris, I'll tell you this. I have been volunteering at my own kids' school, right? So like all the work that I do out in the world, I do on a voluntary basis for both of my kids' schools here in New Mexico. And when I go into school, it does give me that itch to like, man, I wish this was my classroom. I wish I could teach these kids. I wish I could teach this lesson. I wish I could do like, I just want to be a part of this, right? Part of the way I scratch that itch is I just invite myself in, right? Like I don't wait for I don't just like, they're like, well, you can sit in the back, like at my desk, and they're very nice. I'm not saying this in like that kind of sound like I was making fun of someone, but you can sit wherever you want, like in the back, and then my job is to observe. But I find the best way to observe teachers sometimes is to engage with the class because I want to find out, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you like about school? What do you not like about school? What do you wish was better? And when I start doing that, Chris, I just end up showing up in rooms and just trying to be a blessing on some level. So then what I find is that by doing that, so the family was waiting for me to leave one day and I couldn't get out of the school because I got stopped by a couple of students in the hallway that talked to me earlier. I was leaving the school. Some kid comments on my socks and because I had these cactus socks on. So I went over and talked to him and his friends. And then like, I'm sitting there chilling with these kids. I know if I go back again, they're going to know who I am. And the idea here is that you have to look for it too, right? Like we have to go out looking for opportunities sometimes. Maybe that's invite yourself into a class that you know a student or a teacher is struggling in. Maybe that's you see a kid, in the hallway that got kicked out, or they're waiting by the front office, or they're crying in the office. And it's just, I would just go around looking like kind of reminds me of, I think it was the first of the newer Spider-Man movies that are part of the MCU. and Spider-Man was not allowed to go fight with the Avengers yet. So we just kind of kept like going out and like looking for crime, looking for people to help, right? And he was always on the prowl, like every night trying to figure it out. That's what I typically do in school is if it's not given to me, I'm going to go find it. And so going out and looking for those opportunities, I'll tell you what, it is an unbelievable blessing to your school and to the students because someone they didn't expect comes walking down the hallway, and that can even make kids feel good where they see, here comes Mr. Carson, and I know I'm not going to get yelled at for being kicked out of class. I know he's not going to make me feel bad about myself. I know he's going to listen to me. I know he's going to talk to me. I know he's going to let me share my side of the story. And he's going to try and help me out in this situation. And that's, you got to Peter Parker it. That's what I'm saying.
I love that. Okay, Heather is up next. Stating, I'm struggling with a few parents who have children not doing their work.
Mhm.
They believe they're children, but parents want me to stay well over an hour past school time to meet with them. Admin supports me, but parents keep sending me messages that I am not being caring of their students' needs. How best to handle this? I do offer the student extra help during their advisory time, which is my prep time, but I can't stay that late after school to meet with parents.
So this is great. I love this. I love when I love questions. People are really stressing when you can't see my face.
I know.
That's how you know the concern is large. Well, Heather, I would say that first, I love dealing with angry parents. I want to tell you this. I really, really do. Because I know that parents are overwhelmed. It's the end of the school year. They're concerned that their kid's not going to make it, that they're not getting, and that they might not make it to passing the grade. But I'll tell you as a parent, and after working with a lot of parents, that there's a lot of their anger is coming from the fact that they didn't keep up on stuff, that they weren't on Google Classroom, they weren't on Schoology or Power School or whatever. And that now they feel they are trying to make up for lost time themselves. Maybe they're angry at their kid, right? Maybe, but if this is ultimately sometimes a reflection on them. I think that's a soup of stuff we got to kind of figure out. I would consider it's like letting folks know exactly when you're available and how that actually works for their kid. So I wouldn't just tell them that I'm available during their advisory, but I would let them know how little help this student needs. So sometimes I think parents underestimate that your kid doesn't need 2 hours of tutoring or an hour of tutoring, right? They need 10 minutes for me to reframe the directions, to re-explain what we're doing here, to help them understand what's happening, to go through a couple of problems or answer a couple of the questions with them to kind of get them rolling so that they not only see what is needed, but that we've built the momentum. Then I can tell your kid they have this. So if advisories, I don't know, let's call it 30 minutes. They sit with me for 5, maybe 10 minutes. Then it's only going to take them 10 more minutes to do the assignment for today or to catch up, right? And so I often make parents a menu of these are the things they should be focusing on. So they're missing this much stuff. This is the stuff that's going to make the biggest difference. Let's focus on this first because this seems doable and it's going to have the biggest bang for their buck. We can add on things after this. Let's start here. We also need to start with 10 minutes, not 60. So 10 minutes during advisory, they come in on time. They're going to check with me. And then we start working in things where those students are tutoring other students, where they're helping other people, because now they're just solidifying that knowledge that they've learned and their understanding of the concepts because they're helping someone else. So we paint the picture, right? The full picture of why this is the best case scenario. Also, I offer, and this is up to you, I offer parents before school and during lunch, because I eat lunch with my students anyway. So if you can come in and do that, then that works as well. After school is often the worst time to meet with a child because they've already gone to school for 7 hours. Now there's whatever else they were doing after school. Now you want to do makeup work? Dude, we're already dead to the world already. So this actually neurologically is going to benefit your student to meet with me at this time. I see your hand is raised.
My hand
Ms.
is raised
Reynolds?
because I just want to note that I think though that she's talking about parents want to meet with her after school.
Oh.
And I would say, look,
I'm switching the camera so we can get full sass. Reynolds on you.
I would just tell those people, like, if God, you can't really say this, but it's like, if it's that important, why don't you take a half a day of work and we can schedule something in the middle of the day to create a meeting, if that's an issue.
Or phone call.
Yeah, or a phone call. But even that, but I just think there needs to be a respect of the teacher's boundaries also. Just because she's a teacher and she's there for the students doesn't mean that you have to give up your whole evening to your children and your family and whatever it is that you need for your own mental health and space and functioning as a human being. So I'm just real big on that. Like, don't kill yourself for other people's kids. Although education is only ever about students, there are boundaries that are okay for you to hold to. And so even a phone call after, man, she might be trying to go home and make dinner for her kids.
But I think you're absolutely right. But in framing that, I would, so this is how we work. When we have to write emails that are sometimes very straightforward, she goes, here. Mom.
I write it and then I give it to him and go, okay, nice it up.
Make it nice. So, I think framing that in the idea that your kids' success is my priority in school, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But so let's figure out a time that works best for both of us, right? I'm unavailable after school. That doesn't mean we can't meet.
Right.
I FaceTimed with moms. I FaceTimed with a mom one time who was a nurse who went into a storage closet and did a FaceTime with me for 10 minutes.
For real?
Yeah. I was like, dude, this is the best. This is the best parent-teacher conference I ever had in my life. I felt like I was on Nurse Jackie or something all of a sudden, but there's a throwback. So it's when is the best time that we can meet? What's going to work best for both of us? Can we do it during a time where your student can be there? So coming up during the school day or jumping on a Zoom and I have your kid with me in the room and we're on here for, let's do a 10-minute call, 15-minute call. There's I cut out all the niceties at that point. It's not like, oh, it's so great to have you here and all blah, 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 blah. We're not sandwiching it and we're not doing the Oreo of good, bad, good feedback. It's like, let's jump in, let's have some real rap, and then we're out. And then, because all that is let's meet, and then I'm going to formulate a plan. I'm going to send you that plan, and you're going to let me know what works. But it's framing all of it around what is best. Education is only ever about the kids. What is the best course of action for your child in this as well?
But what do you do?
Even the meeting time.
Agreed. But what do you do with if it's an issue where the kids are clearly not doing their work and parents believe the children over the teacher? So how do you navigate that?
Proof, right? It's always proof. And the proof is typically in my class is giving parents. So we have this video or a course that we offer called That One Kid. And in there, I talk about this idea of creating a menu of sex. I actually give you my menu that I created. It looks like a diner menu. Because we're from Jersey. It is
we miss diners.
Menu.
Side note.
We do. It is a menu for success. So here are all the things offered for your child, right? From before school, during lunch, after school, retaking tests, all the things, right? That I offer, right? And then here's what your child has done. Right? Here's where they've missed the opportunity. So I'm not trying to place blame. I'm just trying to connect the dots for parents of hey, did you know that every week we have an assessment? It is always on Friday. It is the only thing we do on Friday is assess the knowledge that we've learned that week, right? To understand where your student is. But I understand that not everyone tests well. So did you know that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of the following week, before school, during lunch, or after school, your child can just show up. They don't have to give me a heads up. They don't need a pass, nothing. Just show up. They can retake any assessment, whether they got an F or they got a 98 and they want the 100. They can come and retake it. Before they take it on Wednesday, they can come get help from me during any of those 3 times to get all the information that they need and help that they need to help them perform better on Wednesday. When you frame it right, parents then look at their child like, how could you possibly fail this class? Like, he's given you all the stuff, all of this time, all of these opportunities. So it makes no sense. That's like, I could offer myself 24 hours a day. If a kid's not taking that, like they're not taking advantage of that, I could offer them all the things that they want. They're just not going to do it. And so it's just helping parents to get on the right track and then saying like, hey, listen, my grades are in the grade book by Friday evening. So you can actually see how your student did and then let them know whether you want them to retake the assessment or not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week at 3 different times. It's 9 different times in 1/2 a week that this assessment is re-offered. And so you can have that conversation with your child, make sure that they're coming in. We can set up a track, I set up trackers. There's all these things that can kind of happen that, again, are supporting the idea that you're being supportive and showing parents what you're willing to do for their child. But like you said, absolutely having boundaries and not going like, I can't offer everything because your kid's not the only thing they are my number one priority in school. They're not my number one priority in life. That I have other things I have to tend to, like my own children, and things of that nature. So it's like just framing it in a way that I think is.
Someone in the comments said, you're their child's teacher, not a servant. And I just think, yes. You know, we can love kids.
But that's everybody in my life. Yeah, that's my wife. I do this. I have to have boundaries with that, right? I have to have boundaries with my own kids. Make me nervous. This is when we have talks afterwards. What did you mean by that?
No, we don't. Okay. Mr. Murfitt is asking, what do you suggest when your students buy into your lessons and enjoy the buzz of the lessons, but management directs you to do other things or to do things that just tick boxes?
All right. So
this is where education is only ever about the students.
I'm going to give you what I do. And then I'm going to offer some suggestions in case you can't do what I do. I don't do any of that stuff. I never have. I can't imagine that I ever will. I am not interested in it. If what I'm doing is working, but it doesn't look like you want it to look, it's like this. There's a lot of ways to do anything, right? But if it's not a way that's like authentic to me, I'm just not interested in your way. That doesn't like, it's almost, let me say this. If I have to do it that way, I'm just not going to do it. So, but if the proof is in the pudding, right? If I'm showing you the proof that I've got engagement, I have kids that are showing up to school, I have kids that whose grades are good, that I am having like an actual rigorous classroom that I'm challenging kids in and kids are being challenged by one another, that there's this dynamic work environment that's happening. Like if this is working, right? That's the proof, right? I'm just not going to do it. It's sort of like if I was running a circus, which is what my classroom often looks like, but they were like, no, we're here to entertain. We're going to entertain people by singing opera. That doesn't even work. I'm going to say it like this. That was a stupid example. I just wanted to talk about the circus. But if it's like trying to still teach kids definitions and how to learn vocabulary by writing the word in the definition and looking it up in the dictionary. Who the hell looks anything up in a dictionary, No one, right? You just ask Siri or Google what that word means. And then there's all these better ways to learn that. So in short, I just don't do it. I just am not interested in it. And look, I say that by also saying that I want to make sure that I make this clear. I have to make sure that their way is, it's either arbitrary or it's outdated. I have made the mistake sometimes of like being told to do something. I'm like, no, that's dumb. I'm not going to do it that way. Only to find out that like, oh, that actually is beneficial. That teaching tool or technique or technology is actually really like useful. Take a pause and see if there's any value. So even though you're checking a box, is anything that's in that box or describing that box, is there value in that? It's really taking a look at that first. When I discover that it is not, that is when I decide that I'm not going to do it, because I am under the, like, education's only ever about students. It is not about your box. It's not about me. It's like I'm teaching in a way that serves my students. The flip of that is, if you have to play the game, you're a new teacher, you're in a small school, someone's gunning for you and you're going to lose your job if you don't do it. I have figured out ways to kind of like, how can I check these boxes? And at my best, I can do that authentically. I can, and without much extra work, I can kind of like have a foot in both worlds. When I'm not at my best, I'm a jackass about it. It's like when they used to tell me my last year in Philly, they always did like you had to write like whatever your
objectives,
core curriculum standard on the wall.
Oh.
So like on your board, you had to write like that long letter and number sequence, and then write like students will be able to do this. And no one ever looked at it. So then I got in trouble for not having it on the board because it was dumb. It was taking up real estate that I didn't want to give up. I was told that I had to write it up there every day, and I had to color code it. So I just started writing it super small just to be a jackass, but it was like on there, but you didn't tell me how big, but it was like 11-point font on my whiteboard. And that was just me being stupid. I mean, that's a little bit funny, but it's not nice. And so it's trying to just figure out a way that like, what's the minimum amount of work I can put into checking off boxes that just seem nonsensical, and then really still teaching my students at the highest level. How can I do both of those if I need to?
All right. Our next question comes
It's such a hard answer because, I don't want to get anyone in trouble. I don't want to get them fired. I mean, I know ultimately this is everyone else's decision, but it's like,
it is.
It's just so, it's like, how do I deal with stuff that's dumb sometimes? And because we've done it this way forever. We've always done it this way. It's just what we do. And it's like, but why?
But
because we've always done it.
This is one of those things CJ and I came up with. Well, I didn't, he did. But it came out of a discussion that we were both having, like for the idea to do a workshop for, what did you call it? The one that we talked about, like,
it's like Fight Club for teachers.
No, you called it something different. That's what you call it. That was your initial, like, it was like a little
getting
bit of
in trouble,
like being a rule breaker.
Naughty? Did I say naughty?
Yeah, this is a workshop for like.
It's like basically,
I forget
how do you pull stuff off like that? How do you just say, no, I'm not doing it? I think that as we get older, we do. It's like, when's the last time you did something you weren't supposed to do?
Well, I don't.
And I'm not talking about,
it's not
like,
just being naughty to be naughty, but it's understanding that
exercising
the
muscle, right?
But it's also understanding that the education system is just kind of it's broken, right? And most teachers know that it's a broken system.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that makes no sense, and you kind of have to just break some of the rules to get the job done in the way that I think most educators know that the job should really be done. But the system is the system. It's the system. So it's like, how do you do what you know is right within the bounds of the system, right? So kind of a workshop answering more of those like nuanced questions. But you had such a wonderful name for it.
It's written down. It's on my phone.
Oh, you did? Okay, good.
And I can't get my phone right now. But it's this idea of, but part of that is exercising the muscle of what when's the last time you stretched yourself and and look, I'm not saying that again to do anything wrong, but like my kids get such a kick out of when I put teacher class off stickers. There's a few at Planet Fitness when I
Oh,
put them places. When I put googly eyes on stuff, right? It doesn't ruin anything. Doing something like not graffiti, but reverse graffiti, where you clean certain sections of something instead of adding spray paint to it. When you are just kind of bucking the system in some little way, that exercises
but in a
something
good
in
way.
you that allows you to do it when you need to be like have some righteousness about something, when you know something's wrong and you need to
Lopez
do it.
said, naughty but necessary.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
good one
There you
too.
go.
Okay. Here's a question for you.
Do it.
What is new in teaching technology? I always laugh because I wonder if, like, can you answer these? If this is not you're always your specialty.
So, well, let's talk about that real quick. Why? I have largely not taught using a whole lot of technology because, because my schools never had it because we didn't have the money. It wasn't until like I was taught for a decade before I even had like I didn't have a projector forever in my classroom. Then once I got a projector, I never had a smart board. So they ordered smart boards when I was in West Philly, but they ordered Promethean boards and then they never taught us how to use them because they didn't have the money for the training. They only had the money for the boards and no one could figure out how to use it. So didn't use that thing. So that has been interesting to me. I would say my two favorite pieces of technology within education. Now, there's all kinds of like really cool stuff I think online where like comic book creators that you can use AI for and things like that. Like so you're talking about software that is helps you create comic books, which I think is a great project for students. Lego builders that are online I think are great resources for students. And then there's all kinds of like test prep and stuff like that, like vocabulary and things like that, Quizlet that are just classic and still work. Uh I think though that the two best pieces of actual technology to come out that I've seen in the last couple of years is one, the Orcam Read
Oh,
is
yes.
we did a brand deal with them. This is not a sponsored post. Their piece of technology is so unbelievably mind blowing and game changing for students that have reading difficulties like dyslexia. It just so what it is a device that you can scan and you can use this for students that have like limited vision. So whether you are blind or you just have some sort of visual impairment, it will read anything, right? So you could go to Target or Home Depot and read a label. It will read any text. You can choose the speed. Then it gives you all this backup data of what your kid's doing. So it's not just reading. It's what was their fluency? What is their what lexile level are they on? Like, or was that piece of or
Then they
that
even
text?
updated it and it does multiple languages.
Yeah.
So if you're reading, like if you have what do they call it? A student that comes in that doesn't speak English
Oh,
in your
ESL
class.
student. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so if you have an ESL student, you can take a piece of text that's in English in a textbook
Yeah.
that you need. And then they just it can hook up to Bluetooth.
Dude,
It's literally
bonkers. It's bonkers.
one of the
It's
most
100% worth the
amazing
money.
things.
And the other piece of technology is coming out in a video in the next 2 weeks or so. So
Man, that's
I
exciting.
is sitting in my living room is unfriggin' believable. And I could not be more excited to make a video out of it. So tune in. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and hit the bell because we are going to unveil that thing soon.
Yes. All right. Up next is Cody asking, I'm a 43-year-old firefighter that's changing careers and finishing a degree in history education that I started years ago. Any advice on fighting imposter syndrome on the days I'm doubting myself?
Here's the thing I love about this question, Cody. I think so. Let me put something. You didn't say any of this, but I'm going to say it anyway because these are the emails I get from folks. I'm 43 and I'm starting now. Like, am I too old? Would have this been better if I was 22 when I started? Have I lost touch? Like there's all of these things. Here's the thing that I love the most, man. You have done work. You've lived a whole life up until now. And now you're going to shift into somewhere where having base knowledge, where you have having someone that can speak to, why is this important? I'm going to tell you because I have lived, right? 22-year-old me, right? And there's 22-year-old teachers out there that are crushing it. They go in at 22, 23 years old and they're amazing. 22-year-old me had no business being in the classroom. I am so, and I started teaching at 27 and that already felt like a million years old when I started. I felt like it was so late. But even that, I had lived through so much stuff in that little amount of time. Like, as my mother was sick, I had to navigate that whole world. After she was passed away, I'd had all these jobs and had traveled all over the country, traveled all over the world. And then I brought all of that experience with me. I love the idea when you're battling that imposter syndrome is to think of this, that everything you've done up to this point has been cross-training for this, right? That's how I think of everything in my life. That it's not that I'm late, it's that I'm right on time, but I'm bringing why was I late? Because I'm bringing so much more with me in my backpack of experience than I would have been if I was 22. That was like a stick with a handkerchief on the back. I was showing up to something. Now you're bringing tons of knowledge, tons of life experience, tons of like, what does it look like to be patient? How do I know myself? I actually have done hard work, like saving lives and putting out fires, right? That will make when you show up to do work in school, certain things will just not tax you because you're just like, bro, this doesn't even compare. I had a buddy of mine who was a military Marine or military career Marine, and then got out and taught. And he just didn't sweat. He was like, I've done multiple tours in Iraq. I've been here in Africa and here and dealt with all these things. He's like, this doesn't faze me, bro. Like, he didn't sweat things like other people sweat them because he brought this wealth of experience. Now, look, again, for those of you that are younger and watching this, that doesn't discount anything. I was a far older and seasoned, even 27-year-old than many of my friends were, because I'd been through some really hard stuff that I had to grow up all of a sudden. As I was on the road to being a perpetual teenager, like for life. And then life came at me. But so some of you are going to roll right into this at a certain age when you're younger, and it's going to be fine. But Cody, listen, man, you're bringing stuff, and that is worth its weight in gold in the classroom. So yeah.
There's
best of luck, man.
Multiple people in the comment section saying that they started like as a career changer or when they were 40, like that alone just helped them so much.
And how many emails? I mean, we get so funny because your age is such it's really becomes just a number in the idea of folks that are in their 50s, in their 60s. Someone hit me up in their late 60s, might have been early 70s one time, that they were like, I just always wanted to do this. Yeah. Look at Brody's favorite teacher was career Navy. Then he was a postman until he retired, was able to retire, then became a teacher. Yeah. And he's the kid's favorite teacher in the school, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Lee. He's about this fast all the time, but he is but even when he's talking to you, you're like, I got all the time in the world for you, Mr. Lee. You just seem sweetest. He's awesome. So yeah, man, wear that as a badge of honor instead of like anything else.
I just like, even someone in the comments said that they were so glad that they worked in the business world first, because it really showed like what students really need. And again, it's like, man, it's the soft skills in school that are really what you're going to need through your life.
Yeah, because you're bringing all that, right? Yeah. You're in the middle of fighting a fire. You just imagine, like,
I don't think you
trying
really
to comfort someone, calm someone down, get them what they need, keep a cool head under pressure. Pff, bro, all valuable. All valuable.
Yep. All right, Mr. Bolin is up next. saying, recently I have been hearing the phrase school was designed more for girls to succeed rather than boys. How do we support boys to become better men in the future? I am speaking broadly.
So, there's a great book.
Oh, it's
sitting out there
in our living room,
and I'm not going to go get it.
I'm going to text a kid.
So it's called How We Raise Our Boys or something like that. And it speaks to this a lot. And it is the thing I love about it is it's research based. So it's not just someone's opinion of like school's more for girls than it is for boys, but what does that mean? And so I think that there's and I'll tell you what, the woman who wrote it spoke at my school, and some people loved it and some people thought it was like the worst train. I think it's the best PD I ever had in my life, because it really helped me to sit and even ask that question, right? Like, is this actually true? And then how can I address this? For me, I think it's worth investigating that. It's worth listening to podcasts, audiobooks, reading stuff that's going to help you understand that. But at its core level, I think supporting anyone is providing a voice and letting them know that they're important, that their voice is important. It's letting kids, it's connecting this idea that education is actually valuable. So for whoever you're teaching and wherever they are in their life, however old they are, whatever they've been through, if we can instill in kids and help them to understand why what we're doing in the classroom is actually important. Asking kids, how would you want to learn? Like, what helps cement things in your head? What kind of, is it projects? Is it discussion? Is it going outside? Is it teamwork and working together, group work, working together as doing something in a class? Is it competition? What fires you up? Most kids don't even know. Like, they know somewhere in them, I think, but they don't really, it's not going to just jump off. Like, it's not just going to like be right on the tip of their tongue to be able to tell you. So it's constantly coaching kids through to help them understand how best they learn and how best they want to be taught. And then taking those things into account. Now, look, when we ask kids this, and I talked about this in the workshop the other night, you're going to get tons of dumb responses. You're going to have kids who go, I think we should just be able to sit on our phones. I think we should just play a game. I think we should just watch movies all the time. But you're looking for, you have to sift through the nonsense. It's like a yard sale of opinions. There's tons of crap there, but if you sift it long enough, you're going to find something good. But you're also creating that consistent dialogue of folks that are, thanks, you got it so much closer. Not quite where I am, but
how's she supposed to get in?
There's
okay.
I know.
A whole thing.
So my point is, you are creating a class culture where we share these kinds of ideas. That if you're constantly creating things that you share, like a space to share, kids will end up telling you stuff, and then they're gonna say something that is then your job. They give you the ingredient, and you're like, all right, how are we gonna make a meal out of this? Right? Like, how are we gonna reminds me of Ratatouille when he's like, cheese and what was it? And a strawberry makes a taste explosion. Your job is to get the ingredients from the kids, and then you figure out how to rock that. The Parent's Guide to Boys, by Abigail James, PhD. This book is friggin' awesome. I just actually pulled it out. It was out because I want to read it again. But it's not affiliated. I know her, but not like that. And I just think that that book is awesome. So I think it's creating spaces and places for students to share their voice and share what lights them up, and helping them to start identifying some of those things. Like, and you'll notice too, like, you have to look for the chances. It's when we did this in class, did kids like it? Did Bryce, who's always having a hard time sitting still, like, did he actually dig this? And now, oh, that worked? Oh, okay, bet. We're doing that every single time then. Things like that.
All right, Ruth Akers is up next. I have a question about leadership. I'm a department chair, and I could use some ideas for uplifting my department based on declining system initiatives. I don't know if
I can start speaking. There she is down there.
Oh, you saw it?
No.
No.
Okay.
Nope,
So
just
Ruth,
answer there.
I'll tell you this. There's certain things I just love as I get older. And one of those things is leadership. I just think I have steered away from leadership my whole life. Now I'm not really going to judge myself on whether that was a good idea or not, but from working at Home Depot in college and them asking to be like a department head, or like wanting to groom me for something else, being in education and constantly being told that I should be like a department head or a grade level chair, or moving into administration, just always, nah. I want to get really good at this. It reminds me of Mitch. There was this great, one of the best comedians of all time, Mitch Hedberg, said, everyone, when you get really good at comedy, always wants to know if you want to be in TV or in the movies. And he's like, that's like if you worked your whole life to be a really great chef, and they were like, great, do you want to farm? And I always kind of felt like that. Like, no, I didn't get into this to lead, but you're always leading. We're all of us watching this are leaders in some capacity in your life. You have leadership. I would say that it's really becoming a student of that, Ruth. There's not like a one-off answer that I'm going to be able to give you, but if I did, let me say this. I think leading is really serving people. It's not telling people what to do. It's not being bossy. I'm not interested in managing, right? Managing is a lifeguard. Leading is a swim coach, captain, right? We're both making sure that no one gets hurt in a pool. But leading is taking someone somewhere. But how do I do that? To lead, I have to serve. You tell me what the problem is, and we're going to figure this out together, or I'm going to take care of it, right? I'm serving you. And then there's all kinds of other stuff, but I'll put you onto this one book, or you can even just go listen to a podcast about it. John Maxwell, I think the book is called like the 10 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It is a frigging game changer. You could read it 15 times. You're going to take something different out of it every single time. But John Maxwell is the guy when it comes to leadership. And so that's where I would start. He talks about all kinds of great ideas in there. But it's really becoming a student of leadership. But when as you're growing in that, it's remembering that you're serving the people that you lead, and you are creating spaces and places for them to have a voice. You're not just taking what admin says and then dictating it to them. You're not a funnel that admin is just dropping things in so that it can get to where it needs to go. You're growing and supporting and working with folks, taking what they say into account, and then building something together. I think that's what leadership really looks like. All
right. Well, we are at an hour, but we have Brittany is our last one. Please. So we're going to head on over to her, asking a sneak peek into any Get Your Teach On events.
So
I think Get Your Teach On did a little bit of a revamp this year. We don't think that CJ did not get asked to speak at this year's event.
This just came up too. So
I don't think they're doing high school, which high school has never been something that they did. When they do high school, they always bring him in.
Yeah, but I think this year it looks like no one that was doing high school, not in my estimation and looking at who was invited, has been asked back to Get Your Teach On. I'm not really sure why that was. Like, they didn't give me an explanation. I didn't even get an email that I wasn't invited back this year. The announcement came out who was invited, and I was like, oh. So then I went on and looked like just out of curiosity. Because look, I understand too, this idea of like, you want to keep it fresh, right? You want to keep new people coming in, even though there's a lot of people there that have been coming up for years. I did not get asked back this year, which is kind of a bummer.
Because it's just really a fun event to go to.
It's super fun. The speakers are incredible, and you kind of get to see all your friends every year. It's like a little bit of a class reunion every year. So so for this year, there might be an smaller event that might work out this summer that I might get with them, or like, that doesn't mean mini Get Your Teach Ons off the table. Doesn't mean any of it's off the table, but so it looks like they just aren't
I think just like
doing
everybody else, they're trying
high
to figure
school.
out who do they serve and who do they serve best, right? Like
Yeah.
they've always, before they even started, like originally was, not even middle school. It was like elementary, like, right?
Yes. And then it
Like
grew in
fourth
the
grade and
middle.
under,
And
and then
then
they did
folks started
middle, and then
asking
a
for
little
high
bit of high
school.
school.
Then high school happened and we were in like the small, like a shoebox room. And then my first year I maxed out. They had to turn people away at the door, which was like really felt great to me. Like, I mean, not that I had turned people away, but like, wow, like folks really want to go to this. Then the next year we had the room was enormous and that was at capacity as well. So yeah, I don't know. It's like hopefully it happens again in the future. I really think it's a fun event. I really think they're doing incredible work with incredible people. And I'll tell you, sometimes those things feel like it's like a who's who online, but they do a really great job of blending it. And there's no bad speakers in the house, I don't think.
No, and their event is just, it's always well
Yeah.
worth it, I think. Brittany is asking, do you do PD in other states often?
Oh, always. I'm constantly doing PD. Sometimes it's virtual for some schools. So like if a district wants to do it, I have a couple set up for the summer that are virtual because they're so rural that the schools are so far apart from one another. But I am constantly doing PD. I would say at this moment, speaking is my favorite thing because I can go so deep on a concept and I know I'm giving people things to walk away with. That it is what I'm trying to make is something that's so incredibly practical that you can go into school tomorrow. You're fired up, you're motivated, you're inspired, but it's not just theory. It's like, here's what's actually going to, if you work this, it will 100% work in your classroom, no matter what grade you're teaching, no matter what kind. So, I mean, anywhere from like working with students that are like incarcerated, students that are in the foster care system, students that are in like really nice, like schools that we all wish our kids go to. Doesn't matter where you're at. What I'm talking about is going to work. So yeah. So if your school is interested, you can hit me up. I can send you my speaking brochure. I can send you my email that I created an email template that teachers have sent. They fill in the blanks. They've sent it to their admin. And now I'm going to speak at their schools. And although I have, my prices are my prices, I'm willing to work with your school on what their budget is. Cause I realize that not everyone, your school might never have someone show up and do PD. Maybe it's your principal every year does it. Let's figure out if it works. And I'll figure it out with you, right? This is about the kids. And that's what I'm trying to really help people out with. So with that, anything else?
No, we're all done.
Cool. We'll see you again next week, gang. We'll be here to the end of the school year. We're going to take off in June, but we're going to get you there all together. We will help each other get there. And yeah.
Have a great week.
Have a great week, gang. See you next week. Peace.